Hello Year 4 and welcome to our second reading skills lesson of the week. It's the 26th of January and for Vipers today we're going to be focusing on the V. Can you now pause, copy this into your reading skills book and then have a little think, what is our focus for today? Let's reveal the screen then. So showing our Reading Vipers poster, the V, the very first one, stands for vocabulary. So today we're going to be focusing on the key words used in our story, and we're going to be using the story that we looked at yesterday, The Dragon's Hoard. Let's warm up our brains like we normally do, and today we've got a grammar and punctuation question. It says, which prefix is the odd one out? Now, if you remember, prefixes are the letters that you add at the very start of root words that might change their meaning. So the root words, we've got correct, we've got comfort, and we've got tie. Here are the prefixes, so the letters that we're going to add at the start, but which one matches which? Do we normally say discorrect, uncorrect, incorrect, or decorrect? For the second root word, do we normally say discomfort, uncomfort, incomfort, or decomfort? And then tie, do we normally say distie, untie, intie, or detie? Can you now pause the video and copy these words down, adding the correct prefix at the start? Answer time. Let's start with the very first root word then. Correct means you've got something right. The opposite of it would be incorrect. So another word for wrong. Comfort then, the opposite of comfort would be discomfort. If you're feeling a bit of discomfort. And then tie, for tying your shoelaces, the opposite would be untie. Give yourself ticks if you've got those correct or make any corrections. Now let's get started today with our vocabulary lesson. So question number 1, it says, which word tells us that the otter's fur was important? Now on the screen, we've got the very beginning of The Dragon's Hoard, which is a story we looked at yesterday. Somewhere in here is a word that tells us that the otter's fur is important. I'm going to read it, and I want you to use your skimming and scanning skills to see if you can spot that word. Let's start from the beginning. Loki, the Viking god of mischief, often caused trouble deliberately. But one morning, he's caused trouble entirely by accident. He was walking by the river when a glossy otter scrambled out of the water, dragging a plump salmon. Loki wanted the salmon for his breakfast and knew the otter's fur would be valuable. So he crept up and killed the otter with one swift blow to the head. Before he could roast the fish or skin the otter, a group of men ran towards the river from a nearby cave. "That's our brother! You've killed our brother!" "This isn't a man," said Loki. "This is an otter." Okay, so that's the start of our story, Year 4. Have you been able to spot the word that tells us that the otter's fur is important? See if you can pause the video and write that one key vocabulary word down into your books now. Okay, let's move on to question 2, which is on the screen now. This is the next part of the story. It says, find and copy a phrase that means Loki gave the brothers a lot of gold. Now, phrase means a group of words. So it's not just one word we're looking for. We're looking for a few words that mean Loki gave the brothers a lot of gold. Let's read it now. Loki agreed he must pay. In the Viking world, if you paid compensation for a death, even a deliberate killing, then it wasn't murder. So Loki gave the brothers a generously huge pile of gold, then walked away with a grin, the fish dangling from his hand. But the glittering gold Loki left behind didn't bring anyone good fortune. One of the brothers, Fafnir, loved the gold. So that's the second paragraph there. In there is a group of words that means Loki gave the brothers a lot of gold. See if you can find it, pause the video, and then we'll copy it into your books now. We're going to move on to question number 3 now, which says this. Fafnir grew bigger and heavier. Write down another word that means the same as big. Now, for this answer, your answers aren't in the paragraph. We're going to read it and we can use it to help us, but it's up to you to write your own word now that means exactly the same as big. Let's read the paragraph to understand where we're up to. It says, Fafnir piled the gold in his corner of the cave. He ran his fingers through it. He sat on it. He lay on it. He rolled in it. He curled up around to sleep. He growled at his own brothers if they came near the gold. Soon Fafnir began to turn into a dragon to guard the gold. He grew bigger and heavier. He grew claws and fangs and rock-hard scales on his back, but he still had a soft skin-covered belly, so he could feel the gold when he slept on it. So that's another paragraph with that phrase, he grew bigger and heavier. Can you pause the video and write your own word now that means the same as big? Okay, we're going to move on to question number 4 now. It says this. What adjective has been used to describe the dragon's breath? And remember, an adjective is the describing word. Let's read the paragraph. Now the answer is in this paragraph, and you've got to find it somewhere. Let's start reading. This sword is fit for a hero facing a dragon. But the hero couldn't face the dragon, Sigurd realised, as he sat on the hill above the cave and watched the dragon stomp down to the river for a drink. He couldn't attack the dragon from the front because he would be burnt by that poisonous breath. He couldn't ambush the dragon from the back or the sides either, because those scales were too hard even for his sword. Now in this paragraph, there's an adjective that's been used to describe the dragon's breath. See if you can find it, pause the video and copy it into your book now. Okay, finally, we're moving on to question number 5, which is our last question for today. It says, what word best describes how Sigurd held the sword? So looking at this paragraph, how is he holding the sword? After hours of crouching in the cold, damp pit, Sigurd felt the ground shake. He heard the thump of heavy, clawed feet. He heard the dragon's mutters and growls. He saw the dragon's spiky head pass above him. Then the pit turned completely black as the massive bulk of the dragon's body blocked out the sky. Sigurd grasped his sword and thrust it upwards through the dragon's soft belly into the dragon's heart. See if you can pause the video now and copy one word that best describes how Sigurd held the sword. Okay, year 4, they are all of our 5 questions. We're now going to go through the answers. So if you've got a purple pen, use that one to tick your answers. If you haven't, don't worry, you can just use a normal pen or just a pencil, anything, just to see how you've got on. Let's go back now to question number 1. It says, which word tells us that the otter's fur was important? I'm going to find my highlighting tool and highlight the answer. It's somewhere in this paragraph here. It says, Loki wanted the salmon for his breakfast and knew that the otter's fur would be valuable. Give yourself a tick if you've been able to find the word valuable, because that means exactly the same as something that's really, really important. Let's move on to question 2 and find the answer. It says, find and copy a phrase, which is a group of words, remember. That means Loki gave the brothers a lot of gold. Now it says here, Loki gave the brothers a generously huge pile of gold. Well done if you found these group of words here, because that means that the brothers got a lot of gold from Loki. Okay, let's move on to question 3. Now, this is the one that I'm not going to highlight because your answer's not in the text. You need to think of your own. It says, write down another word that means the same as big. Now, there's lots and lots of answers. I'm just going to give you a few now. Give yourself a tick if you've got any words like large, enormous, gigantic, mammoth, colossal. There's lots and lots of words, so give yourself a tick for those. If you've got a different word than I've just said, maybe check with a family member to see whether you've got it correct. Well done for finding all of those words that mean the same as big. Let's move on to question number 4. Now, there is an adjective, which is the describing word, somewhere in here that's been used for the dragon's breath. Let's see if we can find it. It says, Sigurd couldn't attack the dragon from the front because he'd be burnt by that poisonous breath. Give yourself a tick if you've got poisonous for number 4. And finally, question 5, which is our last question. What word best describes how Sigurd held the sword? Well, there are 2 words that I'm going to allow for you to give yourself a tick. It's near the bottom. It says Sigurd grasped his sword. So that's one of the main answers there. Grasp means when you hold something really, really tightly. I will, though, also give you the answer if you've put down thrust. Now, thrust is more of a doing verb, but it kind of gives you an idea in describing how and what he's doing with the sword. So if you did get thrust, you can give yourself a tick for that one as well. Well done, Year 4. We've ticked all of our answers using our key vocabulary skills there. Tune in for tomorrow because we're going to be looking at the Dragon's Hoard again, but this time with a different skill. Bye for now.